안녕하세요. 미디어 프로젝트 5주 3차 시간회를 시작하겠습니다. 오늘은 기하급수 기업의 내적 요소에 대해서 말씀드리겠습니다. 아이디어스라는 약어에서 E는 experiment, 실험을 뜻합니다. 실험은 리스크를 관리하면서 가정을 테스트하고 끊임없이 실험을 하는 린 스타트업의 방법론입니다. 자포스의 CEO 토니 쉐이에 따르면 위대한 브랜드나 기업은 끝없이 펼쳐지는 하나의 이야기라고 합니다. 끊임없이 실험하고 진화해야 한다는 이야기입니다. 빌 게이츠는 이렇게 말합니다. 성공은 형편없는 선생이다. 똑똑한 사람들로 하여금 절대로 지는 일은 없다고 믿게 만든다. 마크 저커버그는 가장 큰 리스크는 아무 리스크도 감수하지 않는 것이라고 말합니다. 끊임없이 실험하면서 프로세스를 계속 바꿔나가는 것은 이제 리스크를 줄이는 유일한 방안이 되었습니다. 회사 업종을 막론하고 톱다운식 사고보다는 다수의 버텀업 아이디어가 필터링만 잘 된다면 언제나 더 우월합니다. 이것을 확장 가능한 학습, 스케일러블 러닝이라고 부르는데 기하급수 기업의 성장률을 감안한다면 기하급수 기업을 위한 유일한 전략은 이것뿐입니다. 가장 좋은 시나리오는 기하급수 기업이 두 가지 모드를 갖추는 것입니다. 아이디어는 버텀업 방식으로 개발하고 위에서 수용, 승인 지원하는 것입니다. 아이디어를 제안한 사람이 누구였든 결국에는 최선의 아이디어가 승리하기 마련입니다. 이런 식의 사고를 자극하기 위해 어도비 시스템즈는 킥스타트 혁신 워크숍이라는 것을 합니다. 참가 직원은 붉은 상자를 하나 받는데 그 속에는 차근차근 스타트업에 관해 알려주는 책 한 권과 종잣돈으로 쓸 수 있는 $1000짜리 선불 카드가 들어있습니다. 해당 직원은 45일간 혁신적인 아이디어를 실험하고 검증하면 됩니다. 사내 최고의 혁신가들로부터 코치를 받을 수 있지만 그 외에는 모두 참가 직원 몫입니다. 어도비 방법은 실험을 자극할 뿐 아니라 체계적이고 비교 가능한 방식으로 유망한 아이디어와 컨셉트를 찾아내고 추진할 수 있는 경로가 됩니다. 관련 동영상을 보시겠습니다.
So what's in the box? So everything that anybody said was stopping them, we artificially would remove and put that in the box. So when they said they didn't have enough money, we're going to fix that. When they said they didn't have enough time, we're going to fix that. So we removed all of those barriers and basically said, okay, employee innovator, your move, right? You said these are the things that are stopping you. Now what are you going to do? We've removed them all. And you know what? They got really excited. So the first thing they discover open up the box is that it comes with what they really need. Sugar and caffeine are included in the box, a Starbucks gift card. These are two of the four major food groups of all innovators, as you guys know. And so they know that we really mean it because you're actually going to need this stuff to move ahead. Oh, the next thing that they're going to need is some funding. So there is a prepaid credit card in the box with some starter funds for them with $1,000 on it. Important note here, there's no expense reporting required for this money. There's no receipts required. There's no justification required. It's being given to them, no questions asked, because they are the CEO of their idea. At the seed phase, they're going to decide where to spend their resources, and they're going to decide what to pursue, and they're going to decide what idea they want to do, and they don't need to tell any other employee what they're doing or what their idea is or the path that they're taking. It's up to them. They're truly in charge of the idea at the earliest phase. So there are 6 levels. Each one has a set of actions that the innovator completes at the end. They supervise themselves because when they complete the actions at the end of level 1, they move on to level 2. Now you may ask, what happens if they complete the actions at the end of level 6? Well, they get a fabulous prize, a blue box. What's in the blue box? There's only one way to find out, which is you need to earn one. So level 1 begins with motivation. After the fact, going back and looking at people's success rates through the project, that the highest correlation to people getting a blue box at the end was how seriously they took level 1. Level 1 is all about aligning their motivation. So number 2 is ideation. So we like to say ideas are a dime a dozen. in the startup world. But the enterprise, we need ideas that fit our strategy. And they need to align with our brands and our go-to-markets and our technologies and other initiatives in order to be successful. So we need to put some guidelines in so people can understand what is it that the organization is looking for and how do I come up with ideas in those areas. Capturing those ideas, level 3, is about now taking that list of ideas, compressing, combining, refining, and evaluating those ideas with frameworks that are included in level 3. And you guys are familiar with some of these. There's a canvas. There's scorecards. There's checklists. This is a close-up of a scorecard that people go through and rate their ideas against a bunch of different values. And they have copies of the scorecard. They ask peers. So when they sit down in that meeting and they say, hey, Bob, will you give me some feedback on my idea? Their peers in the company are happy to do that. And if their experience is like mine, when I sit down with people, the number one feedback I would get all the time is, wow, it's a really great idea, Mark, you should go do it, which is the single most useless possible feedback anyone could give me, even though they're trying to help me. That's not helpful for me. What's more helpful is they say, that's a terrible idea. And then I can say, why? And we can have a discussion. So now when I ask for feedback, I explain the idea, then they say, that's a wonderful thing, you should go do it. And then I slap the scorecard down and I say, well, could you fill out and rank 1 to 5 against all of these areas, how you perceive the idea? And suddenly the meeting gets really useful. Next is level 4, where they validate the problem and they validate the solution. So this is straight up lean here. So they're going to go out and validate that the problem exists. They're going to use tools like usertesting.com or Ask Your Target Market or other surveying tools. And that's for their qualitative testing. For the quantitative testing on the back end of level 4, they're going to go do smoke test websites. They're going to drive traffic through Google AdWords or Facebook ads. Then we move on to level 5. Level 5 is very simple. We just have to show they know how to move this lever, get one more data point through their test rig, make a change, show you know how to move the lever, show you know which way is up, and run out of money, because that sets up level 6, where we want to stop playing this game in corporations that we call HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion, right? Because if it's you against the CEO, guess who's going to win? But if you come in with data, if your CEO is anything like our CEO, and that data is from customers, he's all ears, right? Tell me what customers want. Doesn't matter what his opinion is, what does the customer want? So now we've got a small amount of directional, real customer data. And this is a big deal. Changes everything. So the goal here is not for the executives to say, we like it, give a thumbs up. The only way to really know what an executive, including me, inside a large corporation really thinks is to ask for money. So they have to ask for real money to fund the next round of experiments. And if that executive, and it can be any senior director or above, anywhere in the corporation. So ultimately, what are we doing here? We're aligning passion with purpose. And that is changing things for our company. So we already have products and features in market that have evolved from this program. And let me tell you a little bit about the numbers, because everybody always wants to know. So we've run over 1,000 employees through this program. And 92% of them made it through level 1, filled out their level 1 card. 63% of them made it to ideation, came up with an idea. 45% of them evaluated and filtered a set of ideas and identified one that looked promising. 22% of them validated that idea through level 4 and 5. And 6% of those went and pitched. 23 blue boxes we've given out, just over 1,000 people through the program. And some of the best pitches that we've done have been ones where at the end, the innovator says, so therefore, my data has demonstrated that the idea that I had was terrible and we shouldn't do it. And then a room full of Adobe executives stand up and applaud, right? Because we didn't spend millions of dollars and a year of a brilliant team's time pursuing something. We spent a few weeks and a few $1,000s, and we learned something definitive, which is powerful.
실험은 완전히 새로운 개념이 아닙니다. 일본에서는 카이젠이라는 방식이 있었습니다. 끊임없이 개선을 추구하는 기본적 프로세스 관리 기법입니다. 확장 가능한 학습이 카이젠과 유일하게 다른 점은 새롭고 더 발전된 온오프라인 데이터 툴을 사용해서 고객 그룹과 사용 사례, 해결책 등에 대한 가정을 시험한다는 점입니다. 애플도 첫 소매점을 열 때는 일종의 카이젠을 사용했습니다. 당시에는 전자회사가 소매점을 연다는 것이 상당히 리스크가 높은 일이었습니다. 애플은 새로운 상점의 프로토타입을 개발한 다음에 테스트를 진행했고 고객 데이터와 피드백에 맞춰 상점을 다시 설계했습니다. 애플은 충분한 검증이 될 때까지 이 과정을 계속 반복한 후 애플 스토어를 처음으로 오픈했습니다. 이 컨셉트가 성공하자 애플은 공격적으로 규모를 확대했고 수십 개국에 소매점을 오픈했습니다. 이 기법은 흔히 린 스타트업 운동이라고 알려져 있습니다. 리스와 블랭크가 만든 린 스타트업이라는 개념은 리스가 쓴 책에 잘 설명되어 있습니다. 린 스타트업 철학은 토요타 자동차의 린 제조 원칙에 근거한 것입니다. 이 원칙은 쓸데없는 과정을 제거하는 것을 최고로 여깁니다. 린 스타트업 운동에서 가장 중요한 메시지는 일찍 실패하고 자주 실패하고 그러는 동안 쓸모없는 것은 제거하라는 것입니다. 요약하면 스타트업과 중간규모 기업, 대기업, 정부까지도 이용하는 새롭고 과학적이며 데이터에 기초하고 빠르게 수정하고 반복하는 매우 고객 중심적인 실용적 혁신 방법입니다. 이런 철학이 어떻게 긍정적 효과를 낼 수 있는지 보려면 이른바 퍼포스 모델이라는 전통적 제품 개발 기법과 비교해 보면 됩니다. 흔히 신제품 개발 또는 NPD라고 합니다. 이 프로세스는 소중한 시간을 엄청나게 낭비할 뿐 아니라 고객의 니즈에 맞지 않는 혹은 시장이 너무 빠르게 바뀌고 있어서 더 이상 맞지 않는 신제품으로 이어지는 경우가 늘고 있습니다. 아무도 원하지 않는 제품이 나오는 것입니다. 그런 제품을 다시 고객에게 맞추기 위해서는 어쩔 수 없이 더 많은 시간과 돈이 들어가고 이번에도 프로세스가 너무 오래 걸리는 바람에 시장은 그동안 저만치 옮겨가 버립니다. 그에 비해 린 스타트업 방식을 사용하면 똑같은 시나리오가 어떻게 바뀔지 생각해 보겠습니다. 기업은 먼저 고객의 니즈를 조사합니다. 그런 다음 제한된 제품이 그 니즈를 충족시키는지 실험을 해봅니다. 그리고 다음과 같은 신중한 질문에 질적, 양적 데이터를 동원해서 결론을 내립니다. 첫째는 제품이 고객 니즈에 맞는가? 두 번째는 고객이 과거에는 문제나 니즈를 어떻게 해결했는가? 세 번째는 고객의 문제를 비용으로 따지면 현재 얼마인가? 네 번째는 방향을 조정하거나 바꿔야 하는가? 다섯 번째는 확대할 준비가 되어 있는가? 끊임없는 학습을 이용하는 이 프로세스는 최소한의 비용으로 보름에서 한 달 내에 끝낼 수 있습니다. 가장 좋은 점은 실패할 제품이라면 보통 초장에 알 수 있다는 점입니다. 이렇게 이해하면 쉽습니다. A 지점에서 B 지점으로 이동하면 C 지점이 보이지만 A에서는 C가 보이지 않습니다. 다시 말해 실험과 빠른 반복만이 유일한 해결책인 것입니다. 리스는 이렇게 설명합니다. 현대 경쟁의 법칙은 누구든지 빨리 알아내는 사람이 이긴다는 것이다. 대부분의 디지털 시장은 네트워크 효과 때문에 승자 독식의 시장이 됩니다. 끊임없는 실험 문화는 더욱더 중요해집니다. MIT 대학의 기업가 정신센터가 기업 혁신에 이용하는 린 스타트업 프로세스는 5를 4번 곱하는 기법이 있습니다. 그것은 5명의 보완적 팀원을 가진 5개 기업팀이 5주 동안 일주일에 하루 이틀 경쟁하는데 혁신 하나에 $5,000 이상을 써서는 안 된다는 것입니다. $5,000 예산은 여러가지 온오프라인을 동원해 고객층과 관련 있는 진짜 고객들을 대상으로 고객 문제 사용 사례와 해결책 혁신 콘셉트에 관한 과정을 테스트하기에 이상적인 액수입니다. 5주 후 각 팀은 결과물을 발표하는데 결과물에는 컨셉, 경쟁력 분석, 비즈니스 모델 캔버스, BMC, 여러 실험을 통해 검증된 사실이나 최소 기능 제품, MVP, 미니멈 바이어블 프로덕트 같은 것들이 포함됩니다. 간단히 말해 데이터에 기초하고 과학적 문제에 맞는 해결책이나 시장에 맞는 제품이 나오게 되는 것입니다. 급변하는 세상에서 꼭 필요한 학습 효과를 극대화하고 제품 개발 프로세스 속도를 높일 수 있는 혁신적 아이디어가 나오는 것입니다. 실험을 위한 또 하나의 중요한 전제 조건은 기꺼이 실패하겠다는 의지입니다. 실험을 핵심 가치로 받아들이고 린 스타트업 같은 접근법을 채용한다면 사실상 실패는 리스크의 어쩔 수 없는 일부로 받아들여지면서 비교적 고통 없이 빠르게 끝날 수 있습니다. 그리고 그 과정에서 통찰을 얻게 됩니다. 특히 구글은 실험에 뛰어납니다. 어느 한 제품이 목표를 만족시키지 못하면, 그래서 자원을 다른 곳에 쓰는 편이 더 나을 것 같다면 그 제품은 폐기됩니다. 비난은 많지 않으며 회사는 얼른 다음 프로젝트로 넘어가고 해당 프로젝트에 참여했던 직원들의 커리어도 불리한 영향은 절대 없습니다. 린 스타트업의 접근법에도 한계가 있습니다. 경쟁사 분석이 부족하고 디자인 사고를 고려하지 않는다는 비판도 있습니다. 또 새 버전을 내놓기가 쉬운 소프트웨어나 정보 기반의 환경이 실패를 용인하기가 훨씬 쉽다는 점도 인정해야 합니다. 하드웨어 기업의 경우 새 버전의 제품을 내놓는 일은 훨씬 더 어렵습니다. 다음은 실험의 가치와 전제 조건입니다. 먼저 실험이 왜 중요한가? 빠르게 변화하는 외부 환경에 프로세스를 맞출 수 있습니다. 가치 획득을 극대화합니다. 출시가 빨라집니다. 리스크를 감수할 때 더 빨리 배우고 우위를 점할 수 있습니다. 다음은 전제 조건입니다. 실험 결과를 추적하고 측정할 방법이 있어야 합니다. 실패를 경험으로 여기는 문화적 수용이 있어야 합니다. 네이선 포와 제프 다이어는 혁신가의 방법이라는 책에서 이렇게 말합니다. 제대로 된 것이 아니면 확정하려고 들지 마라. 어펜딕스입니다. 지금까지 보신 것으로 이번 차수의 수업이 인정됩니다. 관련 동영상을 보시겠습니다.
Lean Startup by author Eric Ries. In 2004, Eric Ries was the chief technology officer of a Silicon Valley startup called IMVU. IMVU's vision was to create a new online product that would allow users to build 3D avatars and interact with friends using their existing instant messaging networks. Their product would combine two popular trends at the time: 3D gaming and instant messaging. With complete confidence in their new business product, they got to work, putting in crazy hours to bring their idea to life. After 6 months, Eric and his team had incorporated all the major instant messaging services like AOL and MSN Messenger into the product, and it was finally ready to be released. On launch day, they eagerly awaited the thousands of people they thought would download their product. But there was one problem. No one was willing to download it. In an act of desperation, they invited target customers into their office and asked them questions as they interacted with the product. It became obvious after a few interviews that their base assumptions about what the customers actually wanted were completely wrong. It turns out that people didn't want to use existing instant messaging networks to invite their friends because they didn't know if the product was cool or not. However, people were willing to install a new instant messaging service that would allow them to talk with strangers using their 3D avatar. That meant Eric's work trying to integrate existing messaging services into the platform was a complete waste of time. Eric was frustrated, having wasted nearly 6 months of work building something nobody wanted. But he was thankful for having learned what his customers actually wanted before the company ran out of money. However, Eric couldn't help but wonder, did he really have to waste months of work to learn what his customers actually wanted? He quickly realized the answer was no, of course not. Eric could have simply integrated one instant messaging add-on service and shown it to a handful of customers and learned that no one wanted to use it. Eric took a step back and saw that his approach to building an innovative product was fundamentally wrong. His focus shouldn't have been on executing the perfect plan. His focus should have been learning which of his efforts were valuable to the end user in the least amount of time. Instead of relying on past experience, intuition, or focus groups to determine if what he was doing was valuable, he should have been deploying minimum viable products. A minimum viable product, or MVP for short, is a product made with a minimal amount of effort that is used to test specific assumptions regarding the value of an idea. The story of how Zappos, the online shoe company, got started is a great example of how to conduct an MVP test. Before Zappos became a billion-dollar online shoe company, founder Nick Swinmurn tested the assumption that customers were willing to buy shoes online. Instead of building a website and collecting a large inventory of shoes, Swinmurn approached local shoe stores, took pictures of their inventory, posted the pictures on a simple website, and then when a customer clicked on the buy button under the image of a shoe, he'd go back to the store, purchase the shoes at full price, then go to the post office and ship the shoes to the customer. Eventually, Swimworn was unable to keep up with the number of online shoe orders, and at that point he knew his online shoe company was a good idea. Once he validated his idea, he could be confident spending time and money, hiring a team, and collecting an inventory of shoes. If you have an innovative business idea, or you've been asked to work on an innovative project at work, here are the steps that you can take to validate your idea without wasting a bunch of time and effort building something that nobody wants. First, write out your vision for the user experience you wish to create after your business product or work project is complete. Let's say you have an idea for an innovative new board game that combines two popular board games, Monopoly and Risk. This game allows you to go around a board and collect properties, while at the same time building up an army to take out your opponents. The first step in developing this product would be coming up with a brief step-by-step description of how the game is played, from the initial setup to the end of a single game. After coming up with a high-level plan for your product, you need to step back, look at your plan, and identify any assumptions you've made that, if wrong, would result in a large amount of wasted time and effort. So let's say that you've told your friends about your board game idea, and they absolutely love it. They tell you that they'll definitely buy your board game when you complete it. At this point, you may be tempted to just go ahead and spend hundreds of hours making the board game. You're confident about your idea, but there is still one fundamental assumption that you haven't tested. My target customers will actually buy the product. It's critical to remember that validation comes from measuring the behavior of your target audience, not gathering opinions of the general public. People can tell you that they will buy your product all day long, but that story often changes when it comes time for them to bring out their wallets. The third step is determining how you can build an early version of your product to validate a critical assumption. The two most common ways to do this is build a concierge MVP or a smokescreen MVP. The concierge MVP is what Zappos did. Instead of trying to bring the vision of an online shoe company to life by buying a warehouse and automating a system of delivery, Zappos founder Nick Swimworn started with a manual and labor-intensive process that was quick and cheap to set up. It was just enough to test his assumption and validate his business idea. The smokescreen MVP is about creating a front, an illusion that you have a great product without actually building out the product. It's marketing your product and collecting pre-orders before you have a finished product. For your board game, this could involve making a 2-minute animated video that walks people through how your board game works and why they should buy it. It's like creating a Kickstarter campaign that crowdfunds your idea before you spend major time and money building your idea. I've included a link to a Kickstarter campaign for a card game called Exploding Kittens in the description below. They raised $8 million off a basic video and description of their card game before they actually got to work building the card game. The power of the concierge test that Zappos did and the smokescreen test that Exploding Kittens did is that they built something in order to measure actual customer behavior by getting target customers to pull out their credit cards and make orders. This is infinitely more effective than sending out surveys and gathering opinions, or simply trusting your gut and going off experience. In the fourth step, it's time to show your MVP to a small segment of target customers and then measure their behavior. At this point in the board game example, you might buy a few ads on Facebook and target a small group of avid board game players. The ad would include the name of your game, a catchy subtitle, and a link to your animated video with the option to pre-order your board game. After releasing your ad, you could measure the amount of clicks your ad gets versus a typical Facebook ad, or the average time people are watching your video, and the number of pre-orders you receive. After allowing some time to observe these behaviors, you go into the last step, deciding to pivot or persevere. If your ad gets a lot of clicks, and most people are watching your entire video, but you don't get a lot of pre-orders, it might be worthwhile to spend a bit more time tweaking the design of your board game. However, if after a few iterations and a few tweaks, you still don't get more than 2 or 3 pre-orders for every 100 clicks, it might be worthwhile to pivot to another board game strategy or an entirely different business idea. Eric Ries says the sign of a successful pivot is that these engine tuning activities, these tweaks, are more productive after the pivot than before. When Eric and his team at IMVU started using these steps to test and validate their products, they started rapidly acquiring new customers. 7 years later, IMVU would become a $50 million business. That was the core message that I gathered from Lean Startup. Eric Ries has many more examples and details on how you can conduct an MVP test and innovate your way to success. I highly recommend it.